And black woman, I will try to stop dating outside your race. Nasty. You don't let no devil climb up into God's heaven and release all his little demons inside of your heaven. That's nasty. That's funky. You let that white man, and now you got all the crackers swimming in you, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, the Roman Catholic priests, they all swimming. I want a black egg. That's nasty. I can't even date black women who ever let someone else do that. You don't disrespect your woman like that.
That's right.
Honor your woman. See, if black women knew it, y'all can make black men do whatever y'all want. For the community, I'm talking about. We could build schools, churches, hospitals, banks, factories, shipping lines, independent communities. We could turn the Bronx, what's the bougiest suburb in New York City? Where the bougies live? River Hill? Riverdale. Scottsdale. Neanderthal Day. Chicken Wing Day. Black men will turn the Bronx into Riverdale in 24 hours if black women would just harness the power of your heavens. If you stop allowing us to go to heaven, brothers will go to work right now. We won't even sleep for a week. Come on, brother, lunch break. Damn that, brother. I gotta finish this hospital. Heaven ain't open until we create something. Problem with black women, y'all giving out rewards that wasn't even earned yet. Make us earn it. Know your value. And black man, if you want more than one woman, that's fine, but make sure the first woman is allowed to choose freely. Stop manipulating sisters into polygamy. Okay? That's not polygamy. That's my nigamy. Okay? Okay? And unconsensual polygamy is my nigamy. If you want to be polygamous, there's women who don't mind being polygamous, but don't manipulate sisters who don't want to be polygamous. And black woman, for those of y'all sending resumes into the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we want you there. But you got to be natural when you show up for work. You don't have to be natural now. You have time to let the new growth come back. See, I'm a barber. I cut hair. I know all about new growth. I've been cutting my own hair since 15. Went to a little military school up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. They taught us how to cut hair. We had to cut the little boys' hair, cut the white boys' hair. I know how to cut every kind of hair there is. So I know what happens when the girls will come into the cosmetic shop, beauty shop, and they have craters on their scalps. We got black women with scalp damage. And black men, if your woman got scalp damage, don't make her hide it, make her treat it so she can get rid of it. See, black women want to hide all the scalps and the ringworm and dandruff. No. Make her brush it on up. Bring that dandruff out. Introduce it to the world. And see, this is what scares most black women. Most of y'all think that you're going to look ugly if you go bald and start fresh. You don't understand. Did y'all see Sanaa Lathan when she cut her hair off for that movie? You saw how she was already fine. But when she cut that hair off, her nose stood out even better for me. And her lips was even more voluptuous. And them high cheekbones just raised on up for her. So black woman, if you got to start fresh with a little Caesar like mine, go ahead and do it because y'all beautiful. There's nothing worse than a black woman covering her whole face up with fake hair. Some of y'all only leave a half of the eyeball so y'all can walk. Y'all saw that shit. Then she got a half an eyeball, the whole face hair. That means you're ashamed of yourself. That means you got low self-esteem. I'm a psychologist, baby. You can't lie to me. A woman with her hair hanging in front of her face all day long is ashamed of what she looked at. Black men, make her take it back. Take it back. And guess what, black woman? I'm giving out free Caesars for black women at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. All you you got to do is walk. I'm going to have a Caesar chair. You can sit. And I'm going to come with the clippers and Caesar you fresh and kiss it. Black man, that's all you got to do. Put some hot shea butter on her bald head and kiss it. And talk to the roots. Sing to the roots. Play some jazz to the roots. And the roots will come up dancing. And before you know it, all the bald spots be gone. Lord, hallelujah. Brothers and sisters, the black bourgeoisie is only second to white supremacy for being a problem in the Bronx. The black bourgeoisie was created after they killed Dr. King. So in the 1970s, they took all the businesses and the industrial programs out of the black community. 1980, the CIA dropped off crack. Black men either had to smoke it or sell it to deal with the fact that they could no longer get a job, because in the 70s, they took all the industrial building trade programs out the high school. 1990s, Bill Clinton crime bill, 3 strikes and you out, mandatory minimum sentencing for nonviolent drug offenses, welfare reform, and child support court, where they would criminalize child support. Year 2000, George W. Bush, faith-based initiative. He gonna pay the churches to not fight for black folks. Have you noticed none of the major black churches in New York City are involved in any major fight to help black folks? Can you name a church fighting for better schools? Can you name a church fighting to change the prison laws? Can you name a church fighting for unemployment? Can you name a church fighting against police genocide? What happened to the black church? They now qualify for grants, baby. They get after school funding and single mama funding and drug addict rehab funding and clean up the block funding. And all they got to do to get that money from the white man is to stay out of political struggles. And then 2010, Barack Obama. Obama was put in office to do 2 things. Keep black people quiet long enough to take everything our ancestors fought for and give it to white women and gays. Barack Obama was put in office to keep black people quiet enough for long enough for the new white supremacy to reorganize, rearm, and re-empower itself. We are back in the 60s, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves. Because black people have this thing where you have to like people in order to vote for them. You see, you liked Obama personally, so you voted. You liked Bill Clinton personally. He played the saxophone, smoked some weed, had a little whiskey on the side. And because you gotta like people to get your vote, you'll never get what you want. White folks don't come to voting because they like people. White folks will vote for you and hate you. What are you going to do for my community? That's it. Oh, I like Obama. He's so sexy. You see his wife, Michelle? She can dress her ass off. What the hell they got to do with you? And now they're going to give you, this next election is going to be crazy. You got Kamala, so they got a black man, black woman. They got a gay candidate. They got a transsexual. What else they got? They got a gay, they got a transsexual, black man. This shit gonna be crazy. See, I don't know who they're gonna choose yet. I'm studying it. It's kind of tough because a part of me says if they put Kamala in, they can really empower the black feminists to finish exterminating the black males. They put Cory Booker in, it'll look like he represents black men like Barack Obama while he does nothing for them. But if you give us a gay White House, then you can have all the black kids in New York City looking up to gay couples. So it's going to be real interesting to see. I don't think they're going to go with the gay because most of the world does not support LGBT. I don't know if y'all know this. Most countries are not pro-LGBT. So if you put an LGBT president, fundamentalist Christian in Muslim countries, are they really going to be bothered with that person?
Not at all.
So the white power structure has a lot to think about. I don't know who they're going to go with. Cory might be the safest. I think Kamala might be safe too. But then I heard Hillary is coming back for a 3rd round. You know, Hillary. Have Bill, have Hillary. And to be honest with you, I think Hillary Clinton would be the worst one. Can you imagine her in Africa? Because you know, black men, we love white girls. So can you imagine her flirting her way through Africa with little flat butt, getting free gas and oil, diamonds and coltan, flirting with all the African presidents, walking out with everything they got. She'd be worse than the damn Chinese in Africa. I don't want Hillary in, because she'll flirt her way right through Africa and get everything she wants. With that being said, I want to start to wrap this up because I want to take some questions. I know some of you guys got some questions about the school. I'm only going to take 10 because I got a lot of books to sign tonight and a lot of pictures to take. Okay? But I do want to say this. Beware of the black bourgeoisie. There's 5 families in the black bourgeoisie. You have the economic bourgeois in New York. These are black people with a lot of money, but they don't use it to help black people. They'll fund Hillary Clinton's campaign. They'll fund Kamala, they'll fund Corey, but they won't fund you. And then you have the entertainment bourgeois. These are black people in New York with magazines, newspapers, websites, TV stations, and they want to talk about the NBA, the lottery, who got shot at the gas station last night. They don't want to talk about political economy of the black community. They want to talk about police genocide. They want to talk about redistribution of the wealth. They just want to entertain you to death. And then you have the higher education bourgeois. These are Negroes who use scholarship to protect white power. So if you ask them, why are black kids struggling in New York? They say black kids are struggling in New York because black boys, the pants are sagging, they listen to too much rap, the mom ain't married, the daddy in jail. That's a damn lie. The reason black boys ain't learning in New York is because you got white women in charge of the education. Listen to me. Your children will never learn as long as the oppressor is responsible for their success. White women are not natural stakeholders in the success of black boys. They are not natural stakeholders in the success of black boys. So why are we so comfortable letting white women teach our kids? All they teach them is to love white folks. Do you know because you have to work so many jobs, your son is around his white teacher more than his black mother? So he's beginning to love the image of the white woman. He's beginning to like, not sexually, but psychologically. She becomes his academic mother. And if she's good enough to be my academic mother, why can't she be good enough to be my wife? And if my mother spends most of her extra money trying to look like a white girl anyway, when I'm old enough, why not just marry the real thing instead of the bootleg? We got to be careful of the messages we send our children. Black men, we got to do a better job of showing little black girls that we love black women. Because the average little black girl has never seen a black man be as intimate with a black woman as Kanye is with Kim. Black women, have you noticed when a black man is with a white woman, he's extremely intimate with that woman? In public, holding her hand, kissing her, hugging her. You never see a black, well, excuse me, you see some brothers like that, but a lot of brothers don't show public intimacy with their women. And brothers, our daughters need to start seeing it because they ask me in the schools, Dr. Johnson, why don't black men like us? Third graders. Why you say that? Because I noticed that most successful black men either get a white woman or a woman who looks as close to white as possible. Racially ambiguous women. Black men love a racially ambiguous woman. She got the body of a black girl, but she might talk with a little bit of accent. Her hair might be black and curly like she's Greek. She might dress like she's East Indian. And the next thing you know, you're like, I don't know what she is. And that's just how he wanted it. He don't want you to know what she is. We have to stop the hate. We got to stop the light skin and the dark skin supremacy. Okay? That's a big problem in our community. You got Negroes say, I only like light-skinned girls. I heard a black woman the other day say, I don't date no man unless he's chocolate, black, and nappy. That's not fair. What if your soulmate ain't chocolate? What if your soulmate ain't light-skinned? What if your soulmate ain't voluptuous? What if your soulmate is a full-figured woman who looks nothing like the one you want? Black woman, what if your soulmate is a full-figured man who looks nothing like what you want? You don't know what the universe got in store with you. How you going to be so certain about what you will date and won't date until you rub up against something you never thought you would have liked in your life and you fall head over heels for that person? Be open to what the universe sends you. Be open to it. And then, brothers and sisters, the worst bourgeoisie of them all, after you deal with economic bourgeois and money bourgeois and media bourgeois, you also got status bourgeois. These are Negroes in the Bronx who got a whole bunch of business cards with big titles that have no power. This is the Negro who say, I'm the senior assistant vice undersecretary, not yet appointed deputy side minister to trash collection. You ever see a Negro giving you his business card? Talking about, I'm the state rep community liaison for neighborhood improvements. And you say, brother, we trying to get a community park for the kids. That's not under my office. Brother, we trying to get a swimming pool. That's not under my office. Brother, we trying to get rid of a Chinese chicken wing drink. That's not under my office. But you gave me a business card that says you're the senior assistant deputy vice under administrator for block cleanups. So why you can't help me? Beware of Negroes with titles. Their job is to make you think change is coming and it never comes. Does anybody know why democracy was invented? Why is voting so important to the white man? Why does he go all around the world trying to make it safe for democracy? He's in Africa trying to make it safe for democracy. He's in Europe. Why is democracy so important to the white man? If the white man is all about power, why does he want you voting? Because voting doesn't change anything. If it did, it will be illegal. Right. You vote the rest of your life. Nothing will change because of a vote. And guess what, black people? Everything we got through what? Armed street protesting. You got out of slavery because you fought for it. You got out of Jim Crow because you fought for it. You got the 13th Amendment because you fought for it. You got the 14th Amendment because you fought for it. You got the 15th Amendment because you fought for it. And anything else you get, you're going to fight for it. No vote you cast will ever change your reality. Politics is a game you play on the powerless, making them think they don't have to shed blood to get free. Why you think they need you to get out and vote every election day? Come vote. You say, I ain't got no choices. It don't matter. Your ancestors died. Vote. No, they didn't. Dr. King didn't die so I can vote. Voting Rights Act was passed before he died. Dr. King and the rest of our ancestors didn't die for us to vote. They died for freedom. Voting was the strategy in their lifetime that they thought would most likely deliver the freedom. But you're now 50 years after that, and you now have the foresight and hindsight to see voting ain't going to change. So although it may have worked in the 60s, it's not going to work today. We got to come up with a new strategy. That's right. That's right. And loving your enemy ain't one of them. No, that's right. Had a Negro tell me he ain't no slave. Well, why you still got white Jesus in the black house? At least 20% of you in here have a white Jesus at home. The reason you cannot raise black children on a white Jesus is because black children will automatically generalize white Jesus to all white people. If God is white and God is all powerful, that's why the police are white. That's why the judges are white. That's why the president is white. That's why people who own the money is white. That's why the banks are white. Because if God is white, all white men must be godly. In other words, public school didn't teach your child to worship white people. They didn't learn that in a white public school. They learned it in a black Sunday school. Brothers and sisters, it's been 400 years. This August the 21st, we begin our 5th century in America. And we ain't doing good. We got to turn the corner and change the page. Let's look at these past 4 centuries. The 17th century, when we first got here as enslaved cargo, was a century of trauma and shock. We tried to make sense of the world we were in. 18th century was a period of fighting for our humanity. Some of you forget. Before we could fight to be free, we had to fight to be people. Did you forget that?
That's right.
Before we could fight to be free, we had to fight to be people because the white man said that we were animals. We had to fight to prove we were people, and that's why some of us still act like animals.
That's right.
The 19th century was what? Our greatest century. That was a century of struggle. I would argue, like the great Dr. John Henry Clark argued, that the 19th century, from 1800 to 1899, was the greatest century black people ever had in this country. Excuse me, in the world after our fall from African greatness. The 1800s, you got Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, the birth of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the birth of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You got out the Civil War. You had the Haitian Revolution. You had Shaka Zulu. You had Menelik II. Do you realize your greatest period was 1800 to 1899? You did more in that 100 years than you did the other 300 combined. And then you had the 20th century, the one we just left 19 years ago. We started off real good, didn't we? We came into the 1900s fighting. Garvey movement, Nation of Islam, Dr. King, Civil Rights Bill, Voting Rights Act, sit-ins, Freedom Riders, and then all of a sudden he dropped that napalm bomb with that crack in the 1980s. See, most of what we still suffer from as black people today is a direct result of the side effects of the crack epidemic. Why we got so many teenage black mothers? Fathers was in jail for selling it or out of the house for using it. The welfare state grew up in response to the crack epidemic. When they started locking up black men, they said, what can we do to make sure these black women don't fight for their men? What can we do to make sure black women don't fight for their men? We're going to give them housing. We're going to give them health care. We're going to give them food stamps. We're going to give them Section 8. We're going to give them aid to families with dependent children. Black women, I'm not knocking nobody here. You're not wrong for getting it, black woman. I want to be clear. You're taking care of your children. I'm simply saying that the white man introducing the welfare state wasn't because they cared about you. It was to make sure once the black man got out of jail, you would no longer need him. You would consider him irrelevant. Oh, yes. And before I close on Willie Lynch tonight, I want to go back to ADHD for a minute. Because a lot of you have your sons on Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Vyvanse, Serclair, and the list goes on. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder came to us when, brothers and sisters? 1980. ADD, attention deficit, 1980. Was that a coincidence? Same year the CIA dropped off crack, the public schools dropped off ADD. But because there's no drug that can make your child pay attention, because there's no drug that can make your child pay attention, in 1987, ADD became ADHD. So now when your child gets evaluated, there is no more ADD. Even if he's not hyper, they will say he's hyper so they can prescribe the medicine. And how much money do the drug companies make off the medicine? $30 billion a year right here on Wall Street. Right here on Wall Street, they publicly trade all the drugs they give your son. And you sign for it. No more drugs. Do you know what ADHD really stands for? ADHD really stands for Ain't No Daddy at Home Disorder. ADHD. You give a boy a daddy, you ain't got no more discipline problems if the father is active. Because some of y'all going to say, well, my son's father in the house, he still got ADHD. Okay, then we call that ain't no discipline at home disorder. Well, he got his daddy and he got discipline. Well, then we call it artificial diet at home disorder. Too much sugar, too much caffeine, much high fructose corn syrup. And then you say, well, we vegans and the daddy at home, and we got discipline. Well, guess what? I know what it is now. Attachment disruption due to home life dysfunction. Your child comes to school acting up because mommy and daddy fighting at home. Or daddy put mommy out. Or daddy and mom going through something. Or maybe the child lost somebody they love. Grandma died and grandma raised them, so now he's going to school, he hyper, he inattentive, because children don't talk out their problems. Children act out their problems. Don't tell me no third grader got ADHD. He's a regular boy. He got something on his mind. Figure out what's on his mind, and we deal with the ADHD. Stop being so quick to grab for the medication. Because nobody's going to tell you that these drugs kill brain cells. Nobody's going to tell you that these drugs have a lot of estrogen in them that effeminizes the boy's body. Nobody tell you that these drugs can cause kidney problems, liver problems, heart problems, blood cancer, stroke, heart attack. It can also affect your son's growth and his brain growth, and it causes early balding as well. And the most important side effect of these drugs, it can affect his ability to have children later on in life. So, with that being said, let me give you my number 10. And then we're going to do Willie Lynch and wrap it up. Number 10, parents, is what? If you don't believe in drugs for kids, you don't believe in ADHD evaluations. If you don't believe in drugs for kids, you don't believe in ADHD evaluations. What do you mean, Dr. Umar? I mean, the only solution for ADHD is what? Medication. So when the school says, can you get them tested? You should say what? No. Hell no. Because if you let them label your boy and you don't give them the drugs, the school's going to call a social worker, and the social worker is going to threaten to take your kids if you don't put them on a kitty crack. Can somebody answer me a question? Why is it so many black men in New York are in jail for selling drugs, but yet they give the same drug to his son so he can learn from white girls? If drugs are bad for adults, ain't they bad for kids too? So why is it you go to jail for 5 ounces of crack, but they'll give Raheem 5 ounces of crack every single day so he can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus? At the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, there will be no drugs. I don't need them because the school is going to be filled with love. Where there's love, there's no need for no drugs. Somebody asked me, they said, what you going to do about all the kids who got learning problems and behavior problems? I said, that's easy. Guess what I'm going to do for all my learning disabled and ADHD babies? I'm going to have an assembly just like this. All the slow kids and crazy kids and drug babies. And I'm going to say, do y'all know why y'all here? They're going to say no. I'm going to say, y'all here because all y'all, your parents think you slow and you need special help. And you take Ritalin and Adderall and you got IEPs, and some of y'all been in special ed since you was born. So guess what I'm going to do for y'all? Since y'all need extra help and we don't have a special ed program, we're going to give you extra help. That means you come to school on Saturday and Sunday. You come to school every damn day. Every day. Every MFing day you are here. Okay? And you will be in school 7 days a week until you no longer have a problem reading, counting, sitting still, or controlling your behavior. How much y'all want to bet after that assembly? Who wants to bet me after that assembly, within 2 weeks after that assembly, I promise you, I will have no ADHD kids, I will have no reading disabilities, and I will have no math disabilities. Your child can learn, he's just lazy. And what he's doing to you, he won't get away with it with me. Somebody asked me, Dr. Umar, the first school is in Delaware, what is that going to do for me in the Bronx? Well, number one, it's only the first school, not the last. But not only that, once we open up, some of y'all might decide to move on down to Delaware. It's cheaper. Ain't no state tax. Cost of living is much better than New York City. But not only that, brothers and sisters, there's a lot of land around the school. We don't own it, but we can buy it. So I'm looking into buying a big parcel of land and building a dormitory right there. So your children will be able to come and be a residential student at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. If you want to work at the school, send me your resume. fdmgresumes@gmail.com. But I don't just need you for FDMG. I need you for the National Independent Black Parent Association. I need you to help us fight against racism in Brooklyn schools. Help us fight against racism in Harlem schools, in Bronx schools, in Queens schools. If any of you care enough about our parents and our children to join the National Independent Black Parent Association, I will be having a training next month. I don't know the location or the date yet, but it will be within driving distance. It's either going to be in Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, or Connecticut. And I want you to come so I can train you personally. I'm the trainer. So you can come back to the Bronx in your respective city and start organizing parents in 6 areas. What's the first area? Special ed. Too many black kids being put in special ed who don't need it. And it doesn't make sense because most schools in New York get Title I money. Title I money is for reading and math. If you get the extra money to make sure the black kids know how to read, what the hell are they doing in special ed in the first place? So we need some of y'all to fight for our kids, to keep them out of special ed and to get them out of special ed. And for the ones who need it, we do have some kids who need special ed. And they're not getting a good service. And we need to make sure they get a good service. So that's the special ed committee. And then there will be a school discipline committee. How many black kids were suspended out of Bronx schools last year? How many black kids were expelled out of Bronx schools last year? How many black kids were transferred to a discipline school out of Bronx schools last year? And why the hell don't you know that? The discipline committee will fight to keep our kids in school because they are criminalizing black boys. Remember this, there's no such thing as a dropout rate. There's only a such thing as a push-out rate. Black kids are pushed out of school because of how they are treated. And then we will have a school finance committee to find out what they're doing with your tax dollars. Raise your hand if you ever had a contract with New York City public schools that was worth $500,000 or greater. Not a single hand goes up in this room. But there's white folks and people of other cultures who are getting rich off of making contracts with the school district. They clean the bathrooms. They wash the windows. They drive the buses. They bring in the school lunch. They supply the books. All of this is on a contract. Why aren't no black people getting a contract to install the security cameras? Why aren't no black people getting the contracts to network all the computers? Why aren't black people getting the contracts to provide the security? Brothers and sisters, if one of y'all had the contract to clean the school bathrooms in the Bronx, you could hire 100 people for a whole year and keep a lot of people out of jail. We got to fight for our share of the contracts. And then there will be a school policy committee to fight for changes in the schools that negatively affect our kids. How many of y'all got kids that you want to put in a better school, but you can't because they don't live in the right zip code? That's not a state law. That's a New York City policy. Policies are not laws. Policies are not laws. Policies are not laws. Policies are local operating procedure, and they can be changed. Do you know what would happen if all 500 of you showed up at the next Bronx Public School Board meeting?
Come on now.
White folks would lose their mind. They would say, you see all them niggers in here? Y'all never go to the school board meeting. And it's at the school board meeting when they decide who gets the money. Y'all have to go to the school board meetings. And then there will be a social committee to help our parents get their kids back. Because the latest hustle in New York is to take your kids away from you and serve them up to the foster care system. We got too many black kids being taken from parents for frivolous reasons. And guess what? The social worker is given the power of a judge. The social worker, one person decides if you are an unfit mother. And when they take your kids, you don't even have a right of due process. You can't even challenge the decision. You can try to get them back, but you can't challenge it when they take them in the first place. And then we need a parent advocacy committee. I need some of you who are not scared of white folks. Listen. If she got to go to the school about her child, he gonna go with her. If he got to go to school about his child, she gonna go with him. We got to have parent advocates who know the law. So when they say, can we test? No, you cannot. Y'all never educated this boy. Yes, he reads on the 2nd grade level as a 4th grader, but last year he was suspended 38 days. How can he learn how to read when he was suspended the equivalent of 3 months of school? There's only 5 weeks in the school week, 5 days. 20 days is a month. 38 days is almost 2 months, excuse me. They talking about our kids are behind academically, but y'all keep putting them out the class. If they say we need him on drugs or he can't come back to school, you got to be able to say that. Nobody can decide if a child takes drugs except the parent. Stop letting the schools make you get your child put on drugs. They can't do that. A school is not allowed to tell a parent to put the child on medicine. And the next time a school tells you that, write a letter to the superintendent, write a letter to the state secretary of education, and write a letter to the United States Department of Civil Rights, Department of Education, and tell them that there's a school in the Bronx that is harassing parents into putting their children on medication. As I close, I want to tell y'all a little story. When Willie Lynch came to America, Willie Lynch came to teach 3 things. Now, we know Willie Lynch may have never existed, and that doesn't matter, but the Willie Lynch story is true. The first thing Willie Lynch told the slave masters was to do what? Take the language from the slaves. If you let them speak their indigenous tongue, they will never forget that they were a people before they found you. This is why it's so important for us to teach African language at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And if any of you here know of any African languages well enough to teach it, please send in a resume. I want every child to speak at least 2 African languages. Not just for culture, but also for intelligence. The research says that bilingual children seem to be able to access another part of the brain that other children cannot access. So being bilingual automatically raises your intellectual potential. That's why we want them to be bilingual. But see, Willie Lynch told the slave masters to teach us English so we could forget African language. But the slave master never taught us English. It was illegal for you to learn. So you never learn how to talk proper English. Even now, most of us, we might know proper English on paper, but we can't talk it because your African tongue is still in your mouth because the slave master never took it from you. He didn't let you learn English, so he hurt himself because now you still speak African language. Everybody in here speaks African language. You don't speak English. You use English words. You use English words, but you speak an African language. Your syntax, your sentence structure, your morphology, your phonology is totally African. You speak just like somebody from Nigeria. You just use different vocabulary. You speak just like somebody from Senegal. You just use different vocabulary. You speak just like somebody from Ghana, but you use different vocabulary. And please don't confuse vocabulary with language. Because if vocabulary was the sum total of language, English couldn't be a language. Because more than 50% of the words in the English vernacular don't come from English culture. Now, some of y'all might have trouble understanding what I'm saying. Y'all think I'm trying to endorse Ebonics, so let me make it real simple. There's 3 big differences between white language and African language. Number 1, white language is proliferated with words that end with strong consonants. African language proliferates with words that are rhythmic and end in vowels. That's why most of our sisters, your names end with a what? Hey, Rashida. My daughter, Anissa. Hanifa. What's the other language we got? Names we got. Give me some African names. Makeda. Who else? Anaya. Jahari. A-E-I-O-U. About. Right, Keita. Shanae. Look. Listen. Check it out. When white people talk, their language is all about enunciating the words. So they will say, we are getting ready to go have supper with Jane and Robert Thompson. In order to be articulate in European tongue, you have to enunciate the words. You must cut off Jane from Thompson. African language is rhythmic. Our language is like our culture, rhythmic and it is smooth. It is all about melody. So we don't say, I'm getting ready to have supper. In the Bronx, we say, I'm fixing to get something to eat. You see how articulate that was? It was like one word. That's how you talk. That's how I talk. That's how Nigerians talk. That's how Congolese talk. That's how South Africans talk. You don't speak English, you speak African tongue. So, let me give you another difference. White people believe in making sure when you speak, people understand what you said. White people will say, did you hear what I just said? Did you understand what just came out of my mouth? Did you make sense of what you read? White culture is about understanding what they said, not black people. Black people is all about understanding what you meant by what your ass said. Are y'all following me? We don't care what you said. In fact, we even got to look at your ass when you talking. We can feel if this is hate energy. You feel me? Or if it's love. So when somebody say, girl, that's a bad outfit you got on. No, you hear me? I just gave you a compliment. Oh, I heard you. But let me tell you what your ass meant. You meant to say, you don't know why I came out the house with this on. Y'all see that? See, for white people, it's about whether you understand us. Black people, we don't deal in understanding. For black people, we don't care whether you understood us. The most important thing in African communication is not if you understood it, but it's whether or not you can feel me. Are y'all following me? When you really talking to somebody, and you really emotional, do you say, did you understand? You say, do you feel me? Do you feel my spirit? Because for African people, it's not about the communication, it's about the vibration. We are vibrational. This is part of the reason why we are so mentally unhealthy in a white culture based on lies and deception. Because you'll go to court and you know the judge lying. You know the prosecutor lying. You know the public pretender lying. Everybody lying. And they're telling you the reason you got convicted is because of preponderance of the evidence suggests that you did this crime. You say, that's not it. The reason I got convicted because I'm black. And they're going to say, well, how do you know that? Because I can feel you crackers' energy. Black woman, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like when you meet a brother and he kicking game and you like the game is good. He's smooth, but I can feel his ass just wants some cookies. Y'all see that? We on another level. We don't deal in what you said. We deal in what we felt. Stop giving up your Africanisms for white folks. We are not them and they are not us. We are 100% human. We are 100% human. We are 100% human. There is no Neanderthal in you except for the fact that some of you are injecting your divine power into your oppressor's survival. I don't believe we all came from the same ancestor. White folks came from a different ancestor. But the reason it looks like we came from the same ancestor is because we had some ancestors who cohabitated with white folks and produced. We have to stay amongst ourselves. Even the Bible says, you don't mix your seed outside of that house. Your DNA is too divine to be shared. Your melanin is more valuable than gold, platinum, and diamonds put together. Stop giving it away so cheaply. The second thing Willie Lynch said is what? You got to introduce petty differences into black people. Put the light-skinned blacks against the dark-skinned blacks. Put the Bronx against Harlem. Put Queens against Brooklyn. Put Long Island against Staten Island. Put the Muslims against the Christians. Put those Africans from Puerto Rico, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic who speak Spanish against the ones who speak English. Put the ones who speak Portuguese against the ones who speak the Queen's English. Isn't it ironic that Cuba, my great-grandfather's land, was the most thoroughly organized Marcus Garvey island in the world. You go to Cuba today, and I was there last year when I got initiated into E5. You got blue, black, purple Cubans talking about they're not African. Do you not know there's Puerto Ricans darker than any Africans? And there's Africans lighter than any Puerto Rican? The only difference between the Puerto Rican and the African American is they dropped our ancestors off and those islands and taught them Spanish and brought yours here and taught you English. We are the same people. And what's the last thing Willie Lynch said? He said, you got to destroy the black woman's trust in the black man. He said, find you the biggest, meanest slave buck you can find. Line up all your slave wenches and all your nigger children. Take that big black man out front, beat him, break him down, take his will, crush him, embarrass him, annihilate him in front of all the black women and all the black Negro babies. If you do this, the love that the black woman had for the black man will now become contempt. The love that the black woman once had for the black man will now become anger. The awe that she once felt, the reverence she once felt for the black man now becomes disgust. Black woman, I want y'all to listen to me. We have not done y'all right. And I apologize to every black woman in here on behalf of every black man, any of my brothers that have ever hurt you. I'm sorry for them, sister. But please don't take it out on all of us, because you are all I got and I am all you got. This is not about the black man versus the black woman. This is about the black man and the black woman versus everybody else. We stay together or not at all. And brothers and sisters, as we close, I have no problem with you going to church. Most of my Pan-African forefathers were Christian pastors. But I do want to be clear. Any religion that tells you you got to die to go to heaven is a religion you do not need. The white man got his heaven now and I want mine. The Chinese got his heaven now and I want mine. The Arab got his heaven now and I want mine. Well, I'm going to die trying. Do you know why God put us here? God put us on earth to create a heaven on earth. You were put here to make a heaven. But because you forgot who you were, you allowed your understudies, the Neanderthals, to come and take everything from you. And you crying to God to give it back, but God didn't take it from you. You allowed them. So Jesus ain't coming to get the white man off your back. You're going to have to do that yourself. I want to close with a story. Then I'm going to take 5 questions. We'll do 10. Brother Jerry, let me get a cup of that iced tea right there. What's that? No, right there. I need that ginger, Baba. Sure. Okay. I like Bronx water. Bronx River Punch. Listen. I want y'all to hear this story really well as I close, because this is important. At the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we will teach your sons this. And then we open up the schools for the girls, because we will get to the girls, y'all. Ladies, we will get to the girls. We're just starting with the boys, because the war against the boys is 50 times worse. Once upon a time, God created a group of people called sun people. They lived under the sun. They lived in a perpetual heaven on earth. Nobody stole because it was enough to go around. Nobody put their parents in old folks' homes because we valued the elders too much. Nobody had to be hungry because the food grew on the trees. And if there was not enough food on the trees, neighbors would simply make sure that everybody ate. It was all for one and one for all. The sun was considered the greatest symbol of God, because just as nothing can exist without God, nothing can live without the sun. The sun people didn't worship the sun. They simply honored God by acknowledging the sun. They had trees for oxygen and fruit. They had fish so that they could eat. They had all the animals for all the barbecue and chicken wings they wanted. They had all the fur for all the designer clothes that they wanted. Nobody had doors on their houses because nobody stole. There was no prison because nobody broke the law. Because criminals are not born. They're made by societies that don't look out for everybody. These sun people lived in heaven. And then one day, God created ice people. These people lived in the ice. They lived under the ice that is much colder than any ice you've seen in your life. This was the European Ice Age. They had no sun. There was no trees with fruit. There was no fish in the water because it was all ice, too cold for anything to live. They didn't have goats and camels and skunks and squirrels because it was too cold. So they had to eat insects, worms, flies. The only warm drink was the blood from dead carcass. They even ate each other's flesh because it was the only thing around to eat. These ice people lived in caves. And they wasn't benevolent, compassionate, sympathetic, and loving. Those were the sun people. The ice people were conniving, strategic, manipulative, and dominating. They never understood the concept of sharing because there was never enough to be shared. And because they were so traumatized by the ice people, whenever they got something, they wanted it all. They just didn't want some diamonds, enough of them. They wanted all the diamonds. They didn't want some fruit, just enough of them. They needed all the fruit. They didn't want some animals just for them. They wanted all the animals. And why do they always need to control every single thing? Because the ice traumatized them so much that they're so afraid that they'll go back to those days. And the only way they can feel comfortable is to control absolutely everything. And guess what? Because the ice did not bless the Iceman, he learned to disrespect Mother Nature. The sun people love Mother Nature. They honor Mother Nature. They praise Mother Nature. They respect the divinity of water, the divinity of soil, the divinity of plants, the divinity of animals, the divinity of the rain, the divinity of thunder. That's the sun people. We live in harmony with nature. Ice people can't stand nature. They don't want to live in harmony with nature. They want to dominate it. If it's winter, they want to turn it into summer. If it's spring, they want to turn it into fall. If there's regular crops for the food to grow, they won't let the regular crops grow. They'll come up with their own crops and call it GMO. We already got animals. They don't want those animals. They want to crossbreed the monkey with the giraffe. They want to crossbreed the house dog with the rat. They want to crossbreed this with that. One day the ice people came out of the land of the ice and they came down into the land of the sun. And they walked in and said, can you believe this? While we were up in the ice struggling, look at these people. They got bling bling on, barbecue wings, jerk chicken, diamonds. And when our grandmothers saw the ice women, we did not mistreat them, which may have been a mistake. We took them in. And when the black woman saw the white woman, she said, come here, cave woman. First, what we gonna do, we gonna civilize your ass. We're gonna give you a nice hot ass bath and rub some shea butter on them ashy ass ankles. And then I'm gonna get some shavers and we're gonna shave that nasty, hairy back of yours. And you told her how to make clothes. And you told her what the brow was. And you told her what to do at certain times in the month. And then the black man took the white man and told him how to hunt, how to be a father, how to run his family, how to cook, how to clean. And while we was helping the ice people become civilized, the ice people was plotting to take our civilization. That's it. And they took it. And they still got it. And they're going to keep it until you decide to take it back. The white man is here to stay unless you do something about it. And don't tell me we cannot get out of this situation, because I remember once upon a time there was a place called Britain that was considered the most backward nation in the world. They were dominated by the Germans. But yet that same Britain ended up dominating 80% of the world, and it's the greatest superpower today. I remember one time there was a place called the 13 Colonies that became the United States of America that was the laughing stock of the world. I do know that once upon a time the Russians were laughed at. I do know once upon a time India was laughed at. I do know that everybody who runs the world now didn't run it 500 years ago. So if the white man can become great, why can't you become great a second time again?
Yeah, that's it.
See, God is waiting on you to remember you are God. God is waiting on black people to take back the earth, because we are the only people in world history that ran the planet not with guns, not with laws, but with justice and love. And you're the only people who can give justice back to this planet. With that being said, I'm going to close with a quote from my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. My family was brought to America in 1701. A black man by the name of Bailey, stolen from West Africa. He was taken to Talbot County, Maryland. He married a black woman by the name of Selah, for whom my 7-year-old daughter is named. 1745, they had Grandmom Jenny. 1774, Grandmom Jenny had Grandmom Betsy. This is 2 years before Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence. Grandma Betsy married a free black man, Grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet, another daughter was named Young Betsy after the mother. These two sisters was raped by the slave master who owned our family. As a result of that, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader in American history. His name was Frederick Bailey. He ran away from slavery, changed his name. So in 1838, Frederick Bailey became Frederick Douglass. But my ancestor was born the next year, 1819, Stephen Henry Bailey, my 4 times great-grandfather. He wasn't lucky enough to run away. He stayed on the slave plantation right there. It's still there in Maryland now, still there. He married a black woman on the same slave plantation, Grandmom Caroline, didn't learn how to read till 1909. Their firstborn son, George Washington Bailey, my 3 times great-grandfather, the nephew of Frederick Douglass. He marries Grandmama Annie. Grandmama Annie is the niece of Bishop Alexander Wayman of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. They have Grandmom Caroline. She moves to Philadelphia. She has Grandma Vivian. She marries a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, my great-grandfather Cicero. They have my Grandmama Ida. She marries James Johnson. They have Jamal. He marries Barbara. And on the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, I'm born. Brothers and sisters, study your history. Study your ancestors. Know from whence you came. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean but they're scared of the awful roar of the waters. He said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and prayed with my feet. He said, a man may not get all he works for, but you will work for all you get. He said, what sense does it make to lift a man up if he's on his knees? Because if he ain't man enough to stand, soon when you let him go, his head will smack against the curbstone. He said, until a man is ready to stand, leave his ass down until he got sense enough to get up and fight for himself. Frederick Douglass said, a people who ain't got enough sense to fight for themselves have no right to be fought for by others. Marcus Messiah Garvey said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Brothers and sisters, take out your cell phone. I want to make sure you have my phone number in case you want to go with me to Africa this summer. We're going to Africa last week of July, first week in August. I also have a trip to South Africa coming up. I also have a trip to Jamaica coming up. We're going to go to Marcus Garvey grave, Rastafari headquarters, Queen Mother Nandy's village, Bob Marley Museum. Cell number. Also, parents, if you ever need a one-on-one consultation with me, you can text me, you can schedule that. I do charge $75 for the one-on-one consultations, but we take as long as you need. Send me all your paperwork. I'm going to give you my fax number. I need to have the paperwork first. If you ain't got no paperwork, then what the hell am I going to do with you? I need the paper. I need to see the eval. I need the letter from the principal. I need to see the IEP. The problem with black parents is y'all don't keep your paperwork together, and this is why y'all keep losing against the schools. If you got 4 kids, you got 4 notebooks. You got 2 kids, you got 2 notebooks. Everything goes in that notebook. Every report card, every interim report, every letter from the teacher, every test score. Make sure you keep the paperwork together, because a parent without paperwork is a parent who can easily be exploited. Phone number 215-989-9858. I repeat, 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. Email address is my name, Dr. Umar Johnson at Yahoo. D-R-U-M-A-R Johnson. No periods, no spaces. Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com. You have my cell and you have my email. As part of Team Pan-African, I'm going to be organizing a Mid-Atlantic movement. The Mid-Atlantic movement will be 7 states: New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and Washington, D.C. If you want to help me organize the black folks in your state, in your city, for political and economic empowerment and emancipation, make sure you get in contact with me. I want to come back to New York before the summer and host a meeting of the minds where I don't lecture, but where I moderate a conversation of us, with us, by us, for us, so we can move out with an action plan. If you want to be a part of that, make sure you get in contact with me. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will be the international headquarters for the Pan-African movement and the Black Liberation Front. It's a new century for a new movement. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. Brooklyn, New York, Bronx, what up? Harlem, Jersey, Queens, Staten Island. This is what I want to do.
Man, for Brother Umar Johnson.
Okay.
2 years ago, I was invited by him, and the guest was Dr. Claude Anderson, Bob Love, and David Banner. It was beautiful.
Yes.
It was a metropolis, bigger than this.
Wow, nice, nice.
And it was there, I mean, the courtroom was in the building, basketball gym in the building. I mean, the person who run the place said that was the second time he ever seen the place with full capacity. Dougie Fred's father was there. Dougie Fred's father is in the house right now.
Wow.
I went the last time I saw him was out.
So that says people are still hungry for the culture.
It's the truth.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you something. You hear Chuck D from Public Enemy?
Yes.
He said, there's the line one of his records said, Mr. Farrakhan is the leader you listen to.
Right, exactly.
Update. Dr. Umar Johnson is the person to listen to. By me, Kool Herc.
Ashe, Ashe.
I said it.
Ashe.
I ain't got to say about the shade. I said it.
Ashe.
And I'm here in the Bronx. I make sure I find this place a week before so no missing getting me.
I hear that.
That's my brother right there. I hear a lot of stuff people talking about. Oh, this. They did research. He's a fraud. He's a that. But guess what? I didn't see what you doing. He says it's better than his shit. And it's just like Martin Luther King. And he said, although he stand amongst many, he stand by himself. And also, man, I'm here for solution.
Yes.
And I never heard nobody say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Yet. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. I haven't heard it yet. And he died on Christmas Day. It should be a Christmas for James Brown.
That is true.
He died on Christmas Day.
How do you suggest we deal with people who misappropriate the culture, who misrepresent? How do we deal with it?
For the truth to talk myself and others I know make contributions.
So go to the source with originators like you, but now, so should the community support those who are putting themselves falsely before them?
Say it again?
Should the community support those, meaning buying the records, buying the merch of individuals who are not authentically founders of this culture?
Well, Reverend, check them. They will certify you.
Okay.
Come sit at the grown folks table.
Exactly.
Ain't no fence around here. Come sit. Show you some support for the leave you alone. You don't put, you can't get. You can't be a vulture.
Exactly.
They can't do that. You're not going to do that. The conversation will be in a level of nice, you know what I'm saying? It'll be tactful.
Yes.
Gotta preserve this.
Yes.
It's still a bubbling crude.
It is. It is. But many are feasting on this crude.
Absolutely.
Many are swooping
because
in.
They're not checked. Like the NBA. You can play street ball, but you got to go through a system to go to the NBA.
Right.
Same thing we should have here.
Right.
Like the music, the band music, have to have a union downtown. We ain't got that. It's time to put a cap on this.
Right, right.
my cap. They said, this is where you come to get information, and we'll hit you with all the stuff.
Right,
all the press.
okay. And just as we close, how can we support you? Where you have a social media presence? How can we stay in touch with you?
Social media presence is my brother. I'm going to be talking to him. I'm his extra strength. I'm going to be the welcome committee. For anybody who know me and I know to come to my bar, if they want me to come there, I'll be there.
Exactly. But for now, you have a website? You have
it's raw.
It's okay. You just
you're the solution. I want to be a part of a ball club.
Okay.
Can I contribute to the ball club?
Wow.
Ball and play.
You want to be a team player?
I don't want to be like Phil Jackson. He tried to triangle for the Knicks. They abandoned it. I pick it up. Look at my triangle right there. See it?
I see.
You right here. Right there.
I see.
And the committee.
I see. Well, Elder,
like I said, good drugs sell itself. Good anything sell itself.
Exactly.
That's it.
Well, we appreciate your words.
I want the kids to get it and the older folks get it. In between, they're on the fence.
Well, we appreciate the gems you drop. And again, as the founder of hip hop, thank you and continue to stay strong, stay focused. And we are in Dr. Umar's corners just as strongly as you are.
Until number one, don't worry about two. But if number 2 and 3 tell them about one will be forgotten.
Wisdom.
South Bronx.